Hey everybody, it's Krishantiw with Krishantiw.com, bringing you weekly videos about psychic development and spiritual and personal growth. And today I have a very special guest here. I'm so excited for you to meet him. His name is John Lavack, and he is a Bengston energy healing practitioner. Now, I've made a couple of videos about the Bengston method before. I really love it because, first of all, research proves its efficacy. Secondly, I personally have found it to be incredibly powerful. And thirdly, it's a great way to get into the cycle of manifesting what you want in your life. It's such a cool and interesting method. So, with that, I introduce to you John Lavack. John, thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here, Krishanti. Yeah.
And how long have you been doing the Bengston method now? It's been quite a while.
I've 10, getting close to 10 and a half years I've been doing, I've added to the work that I do. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Right. And so you have a background in energy medicine, so you know a lot. Because guys, I've worked with John personally too. And I love working with him because it's multifaceted the way in which he does it. Like he's running the Bankson energy, which goes into your physical body and heals the body. But then John brings to the table all his extensive background in energy healing and interpersonal healing, and I'm sure you would explain it better, but like it's an experience going in and getting a session from John. So
And
yeah.
the main one of the main parts about the Bengston healing method is it really supercharges whatever kind of work you're doing. It raises, you don't say raises our bar, but it really raises the efficacy, the efficiency of anything that you're doing. So if you're doing Reiki, if you're doing massage, if you're doing chiropractic, I don't think it matters what kind of work you're doing. It really helps to enhance it. And it's amazing. All instances where, the experiments Bill did with mice of healing mice that never, laboratory mice are basically almost the same mouse. They're genetically so close to each other that and that's the intention of the mice. Um, and in the experiments that Bill was involved with using and having other people doing the experimental method, had about 89 to 89.6 or 4% success rate, where never a mouse had lived through that before.
Wow.
So um, that's just one of the things with people. There's been some surprising healings, really, that eye openers. I One wonderful lady in her mid 80s that I worked with, and we did 3 sessions. She had colon cancer, cancer in her liver, and in her lungs. And after 3 sessions, she was one of the fastest people I ever healed. So I want to give that caveat. Um, when she went to have a colonoscopy to see where they were going to take out part of her colon, where the cancer was all gone. So it can be very amazing. It can be very quick. Sometimes it takes longer. We never know how long it's going to take. But there's turning around of cancers that are thought to be incurable. And um, I'm trying to think if there's one of the ladies I worked with early on about 8, 9 years ago. They didn't think she was going to live to make to Christmas. And it was March of that year that I started working with her. And by March the following year, um, all her cancer was gone except one small node in her lungs, which then she had radiated. But she had bone cancer, brain cancer, lung cancer. Um, Actually, I don't know where there wasn't cancer in her body. And so she turned it around and she's still alive and um, kicking today, 8 years later. So,
Well, that's why, guys, that's why I wanted John here today, and I wanted to talk to you more about the Bankson method because I first heard Bill speak at a conference about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and he was presenting his research. So he
Mhm.
presented he's been doing studies, what, John, for like over 20 years now, right?
I would go longer than that, 30 years, I think. Yeah.
Okay, and in all in controlled laboratory environments in prestigious universities across the world now. And his research findings have been published. You can go to bengstonresearch.com. That's Bill Bengston's website. There's all kinds of data info on the energy healing method. But I was just captivated when he presented just the proof and evidence of these mice in cages getting cured of cancer and not getting it again, you
Yeah.
know, just doing the Bengston method. So that's why I wanted to learn it.
Yeah.
And
And I
just
believe that experiment was repeated 7 times. So I may be on wrong number, maybe six, but 6 or 7 times that it was repeated. So, well, you say repeated 6 times, so a total of 7 experiments anyway of doing that. So that's definitely been proven. And a piece of this is that I think is so exciting is it's not hard to learn. It does take effort, and within, I would say, a few weeks of steady practice, you can be really proficient at it, and you're going to start getting results within a week. Um, the wonderful lady on Luke the Wonder Dog worked on a dog that had a huge cancer. She
huge, you guys. It was like a tumor sticking out this big from his body.
and she'd never done any. I don't know all the details what she had before. She'd never done any energy work before. She started working on this dog that was a rescue and didn't like strangers at all. And as soon as she started running doing the cycling, what we call Bengston cycling, the dog came right to her and lay down, and um, the vet had recommended putting the dog down, and he just kept getting better. You see these very graphic, not fun to look at pictures of the tumor in various stages. And when at a certain point where it was just a big flap of skin and they didn't think any cancer was left, they had the vet cut it off and stitched it up. And the dog, as of at least about a year and a half, 2 years later, was still alive that I know of,
Yeah.
and lost contact with that. So some things work very fast, some things take longer, but it's very easy to learn. It takes some practice, discipline, but I mean, if you want to learn to swim, you got to practice, and you're going to you get a little bit of water up your nose. You don't get water up your nose with the Bengston method unless you're doing it really strangely. But it is easy to learn, and once you do, and once you practice it, there's lots of surprises that come.
Yeah.
Good surprises, yeah.
Just recently, one of my friends who learned the method was working with her sister who had all these polyps, and went in. So she had a biopsy all these polyps, went in to get it done. But my friend had been
And
working.
just in case polyps are little growths in the colon,
Yeah.
yeah, polyps. So I thought I better say that.
She went in to have the procedure done, and they couldn't find any. And
Yeah.
this is someone who just learned the method. They were gone. And speaking of learning it, John and I are actually co-hosting a workshop with Bill and his wife Margaret in August of this year. So if you're interested, put the link below on YouTube to check it out. And Bill will be doing a lecture presenting his research findings, and that'll be a free lecture. You don't have to take the workshop to do the lecture, but I highly recommend you sign up for that, because hearing him present this information is so incredible. Right, John?
And yes, and he's really entertaining and informative. He
He's
presents,
fun. He
yeah.
makes it fun.
Yeah, he's suspiciously enjoyable to listen to, and he knows he was been a university professor for a long time. He didn't get pedantic. He's really interested in making it so that people can understand, and it's very doable. Um, he very holds strongly that if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well. And so that's one of his premises, that he needs to explain things so that anybody can understand.
And he does. I mean, people
Mhm.
ask these questions, and he'll just calmly answer every single. There's so many questions because this is so unique if you're first coming into this. And um, Bill has such, and John too, they have such a reservoir of knowledge about what the energy is really good at curing, like cancer, and what it is not so good at working on, like what
And
certain types of diabetes.
I'd be like a little puddle where Bill would be like a deep reservoir. He has a lot more knowledge than I do. So, I mean, he is, he's amazing in how much knowledge he has and how he can share it. And he's always doing all kinds of experiments, finding out all kinds of interesting things. We roped into an experiment with him, excuse me, um, just recently, where, I guess recently, last year, there are cancer cells in the laboratory in Rhode Island. Um, and he, all three of us were remote, so none of them, and the cancer cells had genomic changes after we worked on them from a distance. So, and progressive changes on the amount of time. I don't know the exact details of it, but because I'm not a scientist, a genomic sequencing scientist, so there was quite a change in quite a number of genomic sequence changes that happened as a result of us working on them in vitro. And lots of evidence with working with people that it works. And in a way, it's hard to wrap your mind around it. Okay, somebody doing this, you know, if you're from a very, I don't know what you call it, normal world, it would be seem like hocus pocus. And it does change, and healing happens as a result of it. And a lot of manifesting happens as a result of it. So it's actually really exciting. There's a lot of science behind it because we're helping to change the frequency that your brain is operating at. And experiments that Bill was involved with, he was wired up, and a person that he was going to be working on was wired up in a different room. Didn't know when it was going to happen, just it was going to happen. And their brainwave frequencies synchronized, even though they weren't in the same room or even talking to each other, and shifted. And then during the experiment, their brainwave frequencies that they're able to measure stayed linked, you know, very, very synchronized. And then after the experiment, the brain's kind of unlinked, and Bill's went back to where it was before. And the experimentee, or the subject, I guess we'd call it, their brainwave was at a slightly different frequency. So it was, the science is there that something's happening. And then the results are exciting as far as um, soft tissue damage. We're talking cancer a lot, but soft tissue damage, injuries, things happening, healing very, very quickly. Um, all kinds of things. Just I'm sort of going through my brain. Well, there's that one, there's that one, there's that one.
So much, and
So
John is
something happened.
prolific. John does a lot of this work. But let's talk about the manifesting part of it, because that's the thing that
That's
um,
even more fun at times. Yes.
it's so exciting. So basically, guys, the way that it works in a nutshell is, and I'll make it really, really quick because it could be something you talk about like for weeks, but you make a list of at least 20 things that you want to have. You can't have anybody else on there. It's just you personally, things and experiences. Then you really go into each picture and you make it into a story. You spend 10 or 15 minutes on each one. Then you seal it with an image representing the item that you would like to have or the experience. And then what you do is you start rapidly cycling through them. But what happens is somehow that creates, like you were saying, John, it's almost like it creates a pull, like a magnetic, like drawing that into your life, and you start to get the things on your list.
Yeah. It's very exciting, and even if you weren't to get any of the things, just the time spent experiencing what it is you really want and getting clarity on, do I want this or not? Oh, I really wanted that. And then you start playing with, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Helps you to define the direction you want to go. But as far as creating things, it's amazing. It gets so surprising. And a few people have actually said to me, I stopped cycling because I keep getting all the stuff on my list, and it's so hard keeping a list going. And so that's a terrible issue to have. I guess that would be a first world problem, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I was
So
shocked at the stuff I started getting. I was just like out of the blue.
yes, and one of the pieces of the that's challenging to get is you don't have to figure out how you're going to get something. It's just setting the intention, what it is you want, really experiencing it as if you already have it. So going into that future of already having it and getting the whole visceral experience of having it, living it as if you have it, then getting into an image or a symbol, and then I use words, so I have a word for each one, and then I go through a whole list and cycling through the list. It's one of the reasons I have that little bicycle up there, just sort of a little fun reminder to cycle. Um, Different kind of cycling, of course, but yes, and it's so effective. It's worth it doing it, even if you're not interested in healing, as a way to help focus your goals and achieve and do really well that way.
It really does. And I remember asking Margaret about it a while ago. Again, that's Bill's wife, who helps and runs the workshops as well.
And she's pretty amazing at the cycling too.
She is.
And
And
she runs herd on Bill, so because Bill can go off into tangents of
she keeps
any
him.
question asked, and he's great at answering it. Yeah.
But she told me, she's like, yes, when you really get into the list work, you get deeper into it, you learn so much about yourself. And a classic example I can share with that is, this is going to be funny, guys, but at the workshop, the first workshop I went to, Bill was helping people with ideas of what to put on their list, and everybody was like, car, okay, car, and Tesla, because we're all spiritual and friendly. I'm like, Tesla. I'm like, okay, I should put a Tesla on my list. And so I had that, and I was thinking about it and looking at it. Like, at this stage in my life, I really couldn't care less. I don't, they're nice, but I don't really want that. I Sometimes we think we want something because the world tells us we're supposed to want it. And like, well, these are my people. I should have my people's kind of car. But so you learn little things like that, but even much deeper things, like bigger. I mean, we're talking life goals and healing your body. You can put things you want healed on your list, like clearing allergies, improving your vision, being able to
Yeah,
run again. And I healed a hip. My hip is totally fine now, John. And I don't know if I talked about that a couple of years ago. It was
yeah,
really
yeah.
bad.
It's
It's
been a
fine.
while. We have one people we get, and then people want to get together and practice, and one of the people was we went through the first class I had a bill out here, which was 7.5 years ago. Yeah, I believe about 7.5 years ago. She was a lifelong asthmatic. She never went anywhere without having an inhaler. She had one in her purse. She had one in her jacket. She had one in the glove compartment of her car. She had them around her house. And one of the things she had on her list was to be free of asthma. And I think it was about 6 weeks after the class, and we would get together every 2 weeks to practice at a location. And she said, I haven't had an asthma attack. And that was, like, say, a little over 7 years ago, because the class was 7.5 years. She had virtually no asthma attacks. And then she got to the point where she wasn't carrying her inhalers except when she was doing special things. She doesn't even, it's been, like I say, 7 years. She's asthma free. She's gone on hikes. She's been around all kinds of season pollens and the whole works, and hasn't had asthma. So it works for all kinds of stuff. And it is really what your body will, or you're ready to allow in. Some people, it's very fast. I had a gentleman just recently who had esophageal cancer, and it was very advanced, and it was in his lungs as well. It was in, I believe, his liver and his abdomen, and not sure where else. And he'd had an operation. They cut out as much as they could. He'd been on chemo. He'd had radiation, and he was on immunotherapy, and nothing was really working. And a friend bought him a session with me, and we ended up doing 4. And then I got a phone call that he'd gone in, and it was all cleared out. And
What?
that's sort of very, very, how do you put it? Don't know how to make sense of it. It was so fast. Now, it's not going to be that fast for everybody. Some folks are working with for a year and a half, and it's at a rate that you can let it into your reality,
Yeah.
and the rate that your body can heal. So some people take longer. That doesn't make it bad or better. Taking out of the comparative, it's just what's right for you, and things happen very quickly. And yeah,
So interesting.
so there's all kinds of stuff that happens, and the cycling list is really fun. And
And there's more too, guys. What really intrigued me, also hearing Bill speak about this initially, which got me into wanting to learn the method, was that the energy can be stored. So we all get these big rolls of cotton and cut them into pieces, and you can hold the cotton, and energy flows out of your hand into the cotton and charges it, and it holds that vibration. And then you can place that on an area in your body that needs it, and the healing, the energy will go into your body. Same with water
yeah,
and oils, right? And crystals.
and it's like we're finding out what the limitations are. I'm It doesn't seem to work with synthetic materials. Maybe that's just my bias. I don't know. Um, when I first started doing it, Dr. Bengston had consulted a lot with Dr. Bernard Grad, who's since passed away. He was at McGill University, and Dr. Grad didn't think healing could work through plastic. So the mice cages had plastic cages on them, and he was all, no, it can't work. And they were getting the healing. So he was really interested and intrigued because in Montreal, maybe it's a Canadian thing, it didn't work through plastic. And then I did for Bill and the experiments he did. And initially it was just like Bill had the experience of if people on chemo or radiation or any kind of um, pharmaceuticals that were directed to killing the cancers, that the Bengston healing would work. I didn't pay attention to what he said there. And so I was working with people and eventually found that, yes, I could help people that were on chemo and radiation to turn things around. And it didn't seem to matter. And so I was the one that was silly enough or not paying attention enough to not know what the limitation was. And so I think we're all, how do you put it, building on each other. And then where I've got a limitation, Krishantiw go, that's not a limitation for me, and be able to do it. Um, I'm really good at charging cotton. I don't have that much experience at charging water, so I'm not that familiar with it, and I haven't got as many good results because I haven't used it as much. Now I do charge crystals and then set intentions in crystals. I find that's wonderful, and because that makes more sense to me as far as frequencies. So we all have our wonderful places to go, and it's still really in its infancy of discovering how well this works. Even though Bill's been doing it for 30 years, I'm a relative newbie at 10 years. I came out of the, as I call it, came out of the energy closet about 28 years ago. I've been doing different kinds of energy work and trainings and stuff. I've been doing that well, I'm getting old. So over 40 years, well, it's over 40 years since I started really taking different kinds of courses, trying to figure out if I was crazy or not. And yeah, I'm crazy, but this stuff works. So it's finding out what works for you. And here's a tool to learn how to do. It's really, it's a multi-pronged. It's there. Yes, there's a healing part of it, which is really wonderful that you can help others heal. Preferably if you get their permission. It works so much better when you do. Um, but also to help you clarify your intentions of what you want and to help bring those in. I have a theory, I call some of my theories of what I'm working on, I call it John's world because it's like, it makes sense that you're careful, you're coming into John's world because things get stranger, that everything's created by frequencies of energy, frequencies of vibration or resonance. So what's compatible with it will come in. So as you're changing your frequency of vibration, um, almost like a musical instrument, you're changing the frequency of vibration by changing the notes or the chords, excuse me, chord, but Canadian also won't get it completely spoken. Chords, you're getting a different frequency that things can be resonate in. So that's what you're doing when you're changing your frequency. And you might be in a place, okay, I've got some chronic condition. And as you're cycling and shifting your frequency of energy, overall resonance, that chronic condition isn't compatible with the frequency you're moving yourself to. So then it'll start dissolving away. That could be a chronic condition of being addicted to sugar, guilty before, or having extra weight, or, it could be a physical condition, or I've got a chronic condition of having financial difficulties. Then as you're cycling and holding a different resonance, it can change. It's really what you want to use it for. So it's not the magic oil, but it's a really good tool. And it seems very magical because it's so helpful in connecting you with what you want. And when you do that, that brings it in a lot more. So, or likelihood of it in a lot more. I
Absolutely.
better stop babbling here.
No, that was great. I mean, that's that's it. You just summed it all up. So guys, if you want to learn this really fun method, the link to the workshop we're doing will be below. It's krishanti.com/Bengston workshop. Check out Bill Bengston's website too. It's bengstonresearch.com, and there's a world
Yeah.
of information there for you to
And
just.
I think he's on the YouTube. There's a few things on YouTube
Oh,
about
so
it as well.
many. He's done articles with Goop and been interviewed by a lot of people. In fact, my friend Deborah Katz and I interviewed him about a year ago too. So that interview's on my channel as well. If you want to
That's
hear.
probably more interesting to me.
Well, it's fun to hear different people. So we got Bill, the
Yeah.
researcher, and who developed all this, and then we got John, who's in the trenches, like doing the actual work. And I think it's good to hear from everybody, about.
Yes. Hmm. And there's quite a bit of science, you want to say science or tested evidence. Um, One, just healing energies in general, working. Institute of Noetic Sciences did a study of 17 different healers, and I managed to sneak into the group. And there were everybody had a week, and they were given, people were coming to work on, and had initially it was temporal, or what do you call it? Where you have difficulty with your hands.
Carpal tunnel. Carpal.
Carpal, thank you. I was going temporal tunnel, carpal tunnel, and carpal, so ankles and wrist issues. And there was a significant degree of change where they did it across all the participants from all the healers. There was significant change, and it was very statistically significant, and that it maintained for several weeks. So that there was, and some people didn't have it come back. So it was more effective for pain relief than the medications that some of the folks were using. And so IONS has that information out there. They're still mining because they got scads of information. So there's lots of science that energy works. And it makes sense since we're all energy beings. So
Absolutely. I think this is the new way we're moving more into, holistically healing and
yeah.
closer to nature and our true nature as energy beings, like you said.
And it really is, I think it can dovetail really well with the other healing arts, whether it's Western medicine, like allopathic medicine, whether it's chiropractic, whether it's naturopathy, herbal, the whole range. It's like they're all spokes of a wheel, and they all help the wheel to go around. And so it's not one versus the other, it's how they can cooperate. So working with whomever your medical professionals are, and doing this, working with energy folks, it can all fit together really well, and create what you want, whether it's physical healing, whether it's learning a new healing modality for yourself, whether and add to your whatever career you're doing, or whether it's just, hey, I want to do this, so I'm going to create more successes and more fun and love and neat stuff in my life. Yeah.
So
And
cool.
maybe a Tesla.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm driving a Tesla because I wanted to have a different kind of car, and so I didn't have a Tesla on my list, but I had all the criteria off it, and I know I didn't want a Tesla, and it just came in, and just the way it worked. And a friend had passed away and left me a truck, and so I sold the truck and used that as a down payment on a Tesla, and it was humorous. And I want a home charger, and a friend called up and said, um, I'm buying you a home charger for your Tesla, just as say thank you for something. I was just, oh my goodness, okay, thank you. So I'm charging it at home, but all these little pieces that fall into place. You put it on your list, and it can come in fun, surprising ways.
So many surprises. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. See,
Really.
this house I'm in, or the place I'm living, I put on the cycling list, and I shouldn't have been able to get it, and I was able to manifest it. So all these pieces, yeah.
So cool. So guys, again, link is below. We hope to see you even at the research lecture. Just come here, Bill,
Yeah.
because it's so cool to hear him speak.
The chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, you're interested in this. So it's a no risk,
Yeah, right.
no risk, no cost. His evening, or whichever time it is, lecture, depending on where you are in the world, of course.
Yeah.
Uh, and see her link down below. I have no idea where it is, but I'm just pointing down like this because I I see people on YouTube do that. Now I feel like a YouTube expert. Yeah.
It'll be there. And yeah, check it out. And thank you so much, John, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be
Oh,
here
and
today.
thank you for having me, and thank you anybody and everybody who listed. Listen, there we go. Listed, listened. I can't even talk right. That's fine.
It's okay.
And I'll be there harassing people. If you do come to the workshop, I'll be helping out with that. I'm sort of the how do you put it? The herder of Bill between Margaret and I, to keep him on track, and so that people can learn and really practice.
Yeah.
And it is, we want it to be enjoyable. And part of the thing is, if you're going to do something, it needs to be enjoyable and fun if you're going to maintain doing it in the long term.
Yeah, that's also why I like it, because
Thanks, Krishan.
it's not like church. It's like fun. You're supposed to relax and yeah.
I guess church wasn't fun for you. Okay.
No.
Yeah, my memory of church as a child was the uncomfortable seats and the grumpy guy at the front talking about all this bad things are going to happen. So I loved Sunday school, in the basement of the church, because it was fun, and Jesus was really nice, and he loved all the little children and that. And then so my parents had a hard time getting me to go to sit in the hard pews. That part wasn't fun.
It's not comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well,
And this doesn't, interest in bringing up religions, this doesn't compromise, or how do you put it? It fits in with every spiritual philosophy.
yeah. And I
Okay.
love that Bill's like, let's just take all the spirituality out of it and just keep it like regular, whatever it
Yeah.
is, you know?
It's wonderful tools. It doesn't matter what your flavor or what your perceptions are of the world. It can work really well with anything. And it's not offensive to any religious philosophy or spiritual philosophy.
And that's important because so many times people get that healing confused with religion or confused with spirituality. And this just takes the pressure off. It's
Yeah.
just energy.
And it's very, how do you put it? Multi-denominationally friendly. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So come on over. And thank you again, John. I'll see you soon. And thank you guys. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
I know. Thank you.